Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jennifer Bober. I work in marketing communications here at Renew International. We're very happy to have you with us on for this presentation on healing our church, Sanando Nuestra Iglesia. And just as we get going, I want to say, please, as we go through the webinar, I will be monitoring the question box and the chat box. So if you have questions, please feel free to type them into either box, and I will feed those questions to our presenter, Sister Terry. And without further ado, I will hand things over to Sister Terry.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me for this webinar. And really, I have a lot of passion about this issue, and really believe that the only way that our church can be healed is if we deal with this head on, the twin crisis of both the sexual abuse and maybe even more so the cover-up, and help us together to move through this in a way that creates a more transparent, accountable church. And to heal, first and foremost, the victim survivors, of course, ensure that we have a safe environment, but in a particular way with this process, to help people in the pews, engage Catholics, to experience an opportunity to face this, and together to be about rebuilding and healing our church for the sake of our children, for the sake of the church, for the sake of the world. Renew has been around for 40 years, and the heart of our mission is to renew personal faith and parish life by unlocking the power of small groups, by equipping laity to share their Catholic faith and live it every day. Renew, from its very beginnings, was about and is about empowering lay people to renew their faith, to be part of empowering the church, to be our best selves for the sake of our families, for the sake of our places we work, for the sake of the world. So this crisis, this twin crisis of sexual abuse and the cover-up, when this first hit again, the wounds reopened this past summer from the grand jury report, and then of course all the revelations about former Cardinal McCarrick, who actually served in our Archdiocese of Newark, so very close to our own experience here. I knew that we had to do something for the church. I knew that we had to minister to the people of God and be part of the solution of transforming, of healing, of renewing our church, particularly during this very heartbreaking crisis. One of the things I found when this broke open again, wide and deep, was everywhere I went, people asked me whether I was in the airplane, and when I say I'm a Catholic sister, they challenged me, whether they were Catholic or not Catholic, about the clergy abuse. What did I know? What were people thinking? People telling me that they didn't trust their children to our religious ed programs, all sorts of things. I talked to people waiting online in the supermarket, my own family gatherings. It was and continues to be a very difficult conversation. But what I was also hearing was that people were saying that they weren't talking about it in their own parishes, that maybe when it first came out, the pastor said a few words, or they might have read something in the diocesan paper, but most of their information was coming from blogs from all sides of the blog sphere, from secular papers. And many of the people who are engaged Catholics, active, committed Catholics, felt they didn't have the tools to, when people challenged them, why do you stay in that church? What did you know? What do you believe? And why do you remain Catholic? So I knew that we needed to do something to help priests to be able to bring some kind of healing to their people, to explore this issue, to look at all sides of it, and to say, what can we do to make our church more accountable, more safe, and really reform it on both a personal and systemic place. So we brought a whole group of people together. We listened, and it became clear that we needed to do something that was a pastoral approach. And first and foremost, we knew that the victim survivors need to be taken care of. And most places that we were talking to, diocesan people, we knew they had things in place. So we need to ensure that was happening, but what could we do for people in the pews? What could we do for you and me to help us to look at this through the eyes of faith, through the eyes of the truth, and then come forward to find a way forward together? So this process is primarily designed to help Catholic lay women and men process their anger and disillusionment, face the truth, rebuild the church, and find a way forward together as a family of faith. It can be implemented by a single parish. We have a number of parishes that different parts of the country that are implementing this. We do the trainings. I'll talk a little more about that through the web, through the webinars like this, or it can be launched as a diocesan-wide effort. The first diocese to launch this was this past Lent in the Diocese of Allentown, Pennsylvania, ground zero, through the great support of Bishop Slurt, who said, I said, Bishop, it seems we started this in the fall, we need more time. And he said, Sister Terry, I need this for my people now. So we put all our effort and our time into getting this resource and this process out for this past Lent. So just a little bit of what's happened. So we've actually implemented, we've already gotten feedback. 86% of the parishes in Allentown and they're still in the process, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But most of them launched the small groups during Lent. We did the trainings pre-Lent, got them ready. Over 5,000 people, majority English speaking, but we also have some from the Hispanic community participating. We have this resource in Spanish. We trained over 300 lay leaders to organize, promote, and to facilitate this process in their parishes. It's a great quote from Bishop Slurt. Healing our church is addressing the pastoral urgency in the church at this time. 3 principles underline this 6-week process. And I'd say even beyond that, again, this is a step in the healing process. So one of the great things about what's happening in Allentown, it's actually happening right now. After they finished the 6 sessions, they had gatherings in the parish. They had opportunity to give questions and thoughts to the bishop. And now Bishop Slurt with his team is going into each deanery to meet with priests and the folks that were in the small groups to hear their suggestions, to answer their questions, and to find, again, a way forward to continue the healing, to ensure that our parishes are safe places, and then to say this is part of missionary discipleship. How do we then move forward to renew ourselves in our faith? So the 3 principles that underline this whole process, certainly the small faith sharing groups, but also the trainings, all the online resources that we have, the post small group gatherings, is the first one is that we need to face the truth. We can't sugarcoat this. We need the grace at this time to hear it all. So yes, for bishops, for the church to express their deep sorrow, but then to acknowledge that things hadn't been done the right way and to start moving from that in the right direction. This is a quote from a survivor of abuse. To begin the healing process, we must face the truth and admit what has been lost. And as you know, much has been lost. And I've done facilitation sessions in parishes. As we've gone around to talk, I've talked to priest councils, to bishops, to people in the pews. One of the biggest things that has been lost is trust. As you know in your own lives, I mean, it takes years to build up trust. But you can lose it in a moment. And the church was an institution that people trusted in. And that affects all of us, every one of us that represents the church, whether it be clergy, religious, lay leaders, lay ecclesial ministers. All of us have been marred in some way by this crisis. So we have to face the truth. A priest that helped us, a psychotherapist that really helped us with this process, said to me, one cannot be set free while living in denial. It's important to acknowledge the truth because this helps us to address a sense of our powerlessness. So when I hear things like, well, in my parish, the people aren't bothered by this because we don't have any recent incidents, or, we're just going to get through this. These are all the ways that we deny the truth. If this hasn't deeply wounded every faith-filled Catholic, then something's wrong. To see and hear the stories of victim survivors and the way that people were pushed aside when they came forward to report on a priest or a church person who abused. So the first thing is that we need to face the truth. And throughout this process, we're about reflecting, not ruminating and staying there, but knowing that like any healing process, it's always about reflecting and moving forward. And for everyone, it's a different process. I think part of facing the truth is that this is both a personal dilemma, it's a criminal behavior, but it's also systemic because the cover-up didn't just happen here in the Archdiocese of Newark or wherever you might be in California, wherever. But it happened all over the country. And in fact, it happened in Chile and it happened in Ireland and all throughout the world. So what is it about our system, the way that the church is organized and structured and, that allowed this to continue for so long? So again, we have to look at all those aspects. And the bishops and Pope Francis himself has said this very clearly. So how do we get at it from the grass level to really be about renewing and transforming our church? The second thing throughout this process is that healing is a process, that we're all wounded healers, that depending how close that this has been to us, that the deeper the wound, the longer and the more complicated the healing process. So again, like any wound, it has to be exposed to the air and the light, it has to be cleansed. Sometimes, remember when you had some kind of bad infection, sometimes you got to dig at it a bit and pour the stuff on it, and it's painful, but it's the only way that the wound can be healed and it doesn't continue to affect the rest of our bodies. So sometimes the temptation is to move on prematurely, to find quick solutions, or in this case, blame it on this thing or that thing. It's about gay priests, or it's about, if we had women priests, or whatever it might be, quick solutions. Any issue, that's this complicated or this deep is complicated. There's many facets to it. So we need to take the long view and look at the many things that have contributed to this, to study that. And the bishops are in the process of that and trying to get at it and combat one thing at a time to make our church not only safer, but holier, and to begin to rebuild trust. And the third principle is finding a way forward together, rebuilding trust. That, as you know, the majority of priests are faithful, good priests, faithful deacons, religious, lay leaders, lay ecclesial ministers, bishops. So, you know, every day masses are celebrated around the world. People are forgiven and healed. Children are being taught the faith by their parents in religious ed programs in schools. We have Catholic hospitals and caring for the people on the margins, people fighting for justice for the least among us. This is the heart of who we are as Catholics. So we got to find a way forward so that not to just say, oh, these are the good things we were doing. Again, admit the horror of this, do something about it, and get about the healing, evangelizing work of the church. In fact, dealing with this abuse crisis, taking care of the victims, the lay faithful, that is actually what the mission of the church has to be about today. And then moving forward from that to help people to reclaim their faith and to be truly a church that is holy, healthy, safe, and about forming missionary disciples. The heart of this process is small groups. That's what we're known for at Renew. And so we'll be gathering people in small groups, 8 to 12 people. There'll be a trained facilitator, and each session is 90 minutes. There'll be a prayer for healing, healing for the victim survivors, healing for the lay faithful, for priests, for all of us, and asking for the grace of leadership in every level of the church to be about bringing about a new church. There'll be a survivor victim story starting each session, so we never forget the pain, the continued ongoing victims and the pain of that. You know, if it happened 50 years ago, people are affected by that. We know that now. We know that talking to people. To ask for forgiveness, forgiving the church, the bishops, people who covered up, even the perpetrators of this horrific crime. There'll be a prayerful reflection on the session, scripture, breaking open the word, and action. You know, all of Renew's materials, the small groups, are based on the methodology of see, what's the experience? Judge, what's the church teaching, the scriptures say about this? And then action. So whatever, everybody can take an action step, and we give you some suggestions for those action steps. One of those action steps is online. We'll have more reading on whatever that topic is. So if it's about the causes of clergy sexual abuse, or the essentials of the faith, whatever it is, there'll be articles. Why do I remain Catholic? There'll be articles online you can click on. We'll have videos. We have some of them up right now. We'll be adding to them as we continue to roll out more dioceses and more parishes. And we're actually in the process now of rolling out to parishes in the Archdiocese of Newark. We have a pilot group in the Diocese of Orlando. Grand Rapids, Michigan is moving forward as diocese-wide. So we'll continue to add best practices and put more material up there as we continue to hear things from the participants. So the small group sessions, there's a very solid introduction by Dr. Thomas Plant. He's a psychotherapist. He teaches at a Catholic college, and he is an expert on clergy sexual abuse. So he gives a really balanced introduction. You know, where have we been and where are we at now? And what else does the church have to do to really move forward? The first session, facing the truth. Then we move to healing our wounds, rebuilding the church. You know, we look at the great reformers, St. Catherine of Siena, who just happens to be a Dominican sister like me, great, spoke. At that time, in the Middle Ages, there were, this is around the 16th century, there were 2 popes. People are warring, there's all sorts of things. And she, at that time, spoke the truth to power and was part of the reform of the church at that time. Catherine of Siena was a laywoman living in the Dominican tradition. 4th session, it's a process we're going through. The 4th session is, why do I remain Catholic? So we'll hear testimonies of people, different folks from different ages and thoughts of why they have chosen to remain Catholic. And we'll also have some articles and things that supplement that. From that, what do we believe? First, to articulate why you and me, why do we stay Catholic? And then from hearing others, then we examine ourselves. What do we believe? I believe in the sacramental life of the church. I believe in the Eucharist and the power not only to transform my heart, but to transform the world. I believe in the social teachings of the church. So I believe in the community of the faithful. So this church that I love, that formed me, to be able to articulate that even in the midst of facing the reality of the crimes, of the evil and all that has happened, and to be able to state my belief, certainly in Jesus Christ, but also in the grace and the power of the community of Jesus Christ, the Catholic Church, with all saints and sinners. And again, how do we move forward together to sing a new church and to be about healing one another? And most importantly, to make sure that we're a voice for a church that's more transparent, more accountable, and a church that's centered in the love and life of Jesus the Christ. To make this process work, we've worked really hard at putting together 2 workshops, training sessions. One is to try to get a parish team together. This is not an easy invitation to people. You know, it's not something that any of us want to deal with. So to really help that parish team to invite people, to get the word out, to really help people in the pews to come together and to walk in this together. So, and we'll have downloadable resources for you, the workshop, and of course, you'll be assigned one of our pastoral representatives. I might have mentioned before that we have this process in English and Spanish. And then we'll have a really very significant workshop on facilitation for the leaders of the small groups. What we found, people who have done Arise, White Catholic, all the different processes, small group processes that Renew has done before, felt a bit timid about facilitating this process. You know, people say, I'm not a therapist. I'm afraid of people's anger. No, we don't need a therapist, or we need facilitators that are trained to know very clearly what their role is and to be able to get the people the help they need. So that will be a huge part. That's a huge part of the training. Again, you'll have all sorts of resources, and we'll be working, and depending on what diocese we're in, we work with the safe environment folks, so people know if somebody needs counseling, they need help, what are the reporting ways that in that state, and what are the diocesan procedures, so that everybody is clear what the diocese is doing, what are the safe things they have in place, and that people are able to articulate that to others. And from the feedback from the parishes that have done this process is, yes, there was some tension that first meeting, and people had a lot of emotion about it, of course, but they were able to do that in a respectful way and to help each other to grow together and to make a difference in making their parishes more safe and also the diocese. So there's also, besides those 2 workshops, there'll be other supplementary things that will help you. And then online resources. I'll talk about those in a moment. But one that we're developing right now is a personal reflection booklet. So everybody in the parish is not going to be in a small group. We try to get as many people as possible. But we will have a personal reflection booklet that will be very simple, that each of these sessions will be from the book or in there. We'll have 3-minute videos from Cardinal Tobin speaking about each one of those topics that people can click on the link. And then we'll have diocesan safe environment, what procedures and resources, depending on what diocese that we're working in. And that will be downloadable. And if you're part of the process, it's a parish free, you'll receive all those free. You can make copies of them and print them for all your parishioners. So again, it's the heart of it is the small groups, but people will be putting things in the bulletin. We'll have a little column for you. You'll have the personal reflection booklets. And then post that, which has been very powerful in the Diocese of Allentown, there were parish gatherings so that the priests and the people and the parish ministers can join together and share their thoughts and feelings. And then what's going on right now as we speak in the Diocese of Allentown, they've completed, I think, 3 or 4 of the deanery meetings. The bishop is going to each deanery, and we put together a prayer service and a time for question and answers. So a whole process. And that has been a very, very positive, powerful experience. One of the things in session 3 and session 6, we asked people what are their questions? What do they want the bishop to know? So we gathered all that, and the bishop was very happy to receive that. And then he responded in his talk, answering those questions and really giving some clarity to what he's doing diocesan-wise and his team and what needs to be done, both on the parish and the diocesan level. And then, so that's all happening. They actually had one also in Spanish. Our Spanish leader, Sister Ruth, accompanied the bishop on that one. So again, people, not only they want to talk in this small groups, but they want the bishop and other leaders to hear their reflections so they can be assured that something's true is happening. And the bishop, Schlert, is being accountable, and he is on that path and committed to accountability and transparency. And that, again, has really been a huge part of the healing and the experience. So the benefits of healing our church, to help people work through those thoughts and feelings in their parish. You know, again, many people have said to us, you know, we went out, we surveyed people, we talked, you know, we want to hear something from our pastor. We want something in our own parishes. And so talking to priests about this, you know, this is very complicated for them. I mean, it's complicated for all of us, but particularly the priests are on the front line. Many of them feel they were thrown under the bus. Guys they went to the seminary with, that they worked with, or some of them are in jail, or all sorts of things. So it's very complicated on the personal level for them, and priests need their own healing and empowerment. And then they have a pastoral responsibility. And I've heard priests speak very powerfully about this. Though even though I have my own hurt and confusion about this, I have a pastoral responsibility to my people to be an instrument of healing for them. So I think that's what we created this tool, so that we could help pastors minister to their people. Also as a way to provide information and combat misinformation. What I said earlier, there's not one thing. You know, this is a complicated issue. It's not something that gets fixed like this. It's certainly in the church, and we need to face that. But we want to eradicate this in our families and sports teams and wherever it is, that we're all more aware so that we can protect our children, our nieces and nephews, our family, whoever, kids in the parish, wherever. We want children to be safe. So the articles will help with that. We give you good resources, and we're hoping that this is just the beginning. If there's more things people want in the parish or the diocese, that they're able to articulate that and be proactive in making it happen. It's an opportunity for people to explore why we remain Catholic, to articulate our faith, to recommit ourselves to being missionary disciples, and to begin this road of rebuilding trust. And again, you can't rebuild trust until you face it and then put things in place that people feel secure, that there's true accountability and transparency, that things will be different going forward. Again, that this is about empowering lay women and men to ensure by their advocacy, transparency, accountability, and a safe environment for all. What Renew offers is, in summary, a proven parish-based process in both English and Spanish, faith-sharing book for parish small groups, downloadable personal reflection booklet. We'll have also downloadable resources, posters, sign-up cards, other kinds of best practices, some things that you can do on social media, 2 training sessions for the parish team and the facilitators. I mentioned ongoing resources for leaders and participants, and ongoing pastoral consultation. So you'll be assigned one of our experts on particularly those who have worked in this, not only small groups, but with Healing Our Church. So I hope that you'll consider this for your parish, for your diocese. The need is so tremendous. And we at Renew are committed to doing our small part of healing our church, of helping people to be part of the solution. So I'll just tell you where, if you're interested, you'll see up on the slide our website, healingourchurch.org. And please call us. Deacon Pete Fiore is a tremendous guy. He's heading up the promotion of Healing Our Church. So there's his email, peterf@renewintl.org, and at 908-769-5400, extension 110. So please call us, email us. We'll do everything we can to answer your questions, to reassure you, and if you decide to enter into the process, we're committed to making this a healing, transforming parish for your parishioners. So I invite you, hopefully you've typed some questions for Jennifer.
Well, we had someone typed a question in right away, and you already answered it, whether or not this program can be used in a parish as opposed to just diocesan-wide. And hopefully others will type in questions now. And I will tell you, while we're waiting for folks to type in any questions they might have, that a recording of this webinar is going to be put up online. You'll also get an email, but if you go to healingourchurch.org, where right now it says attend a webinar, that's going to get swapped out, and it's going to have a link to the recording right there. So please do feel free to type in questions, and we'll let Sister Terry answer them.
Yeah, just to say a word about the parish versus diocese-wide. We do both. And if you're a parish, no matter where it is, now because of technology, we can do the training online. And so we're happy to do that and assist you in every way. We're getting a lot of inquiries from dioceses. So the great thing about that is that we can create a movement in that diocese to get as many parishes on board. So do a lot of publicity and to really create a sense that the church is doing something, and so that people can clearly know what the diocese is doing and the safe environment in their parishes, and to add to that and be part of making your parish and your diocese even safer place for our children.
Okay, Denise had a question. She wants to know, where do we find the supplemental materials you mentioned in your talk? Do we need to commit in order to attend the training sessions? And how many people do you recommend for a team?
Okay, I'll do the one at the end because I remember that one. In terms of the team, I'd say depending on your parish, it could be anywhere from 6 to 12. One of the things that we say, particularly about healing, it would be great if you had a health professional, social worker, a nurse, somebody who's worked in this field. That's, I think, really helpful to have somebody like that on your team. I would also say that you want different age groups, and make sure you have some young parents on that team. So we talk about that at the workshops. In terms of the supplementary material, I think I have this right, Jen, that we just created a kind of an outside page that everybody can use. And there are some of the articles and resources there. Well, Archbishop Tobin's talks aren't there yet because we're filming them as we speak this summer. So they'll be up for the fall. And some of those other resources, if you contact Pete, that's on the member side. But we're happy to show you what we have and give you some samples of some of those other resources.
Yes, currently the other resources are on a page that is actually listed in the book. And so you can see like the supplemental reading and everything. There's a page that's listed right there, and that will take you right to the supplemental resources. We have 2 more questions. Mary is asking, how can this work separate from the diocese, and what about the cost?
Okay, so if your parish chooses to do this, and you're, I don't know, the whole diocese isn't doing it, that's fine. So we would work with you one-on-one with your parish. We would assign one of our pastoral representatives. That person would set up, give you an overview, and then set up the workshops, help you to get your team together. How do you choose them? She or he would meet with the team online, and then we would do the training. Right now, what I would say is that if your parish signed up now, then the best time to do this now is in the fall. But to sign up now, get your team, so get them beginning and thinking and training. Then I'd say, in September, maybe mid-September, do the facilitation training. And then in October, I would do the 6 weeks. So we have a whole group of parishes starting in the fall, but they're doing the training and they're preparing now so that they can have the best experience in October. So in terms of the price of that for individual diocese and diocesan, I ask you to contact Deacon Pete, because to tell you honestly, talk to him because he knows. Right now, we talked about a couple of different scenarios. So chat with him and he'll be happy to talk to you about that. And just so you know, we're adding more things, and as we're listening and hearing what people have shared with us in terms of their experience. So we're tweaking things, we're adding things, and particularly more resources for people.
Well, that seems to be it so far for the questions. I know we've talked a bit about Allentown. One of the things that I did was I saw some of the kind of the response sheets, and as a faithful laywoman, it was very encouraging to me to see how positively these people were impacted by this process. People, how they're emotions had been so transformed. It just really did my heart good. So I'm happy to
Great.
be part of this process. So I think that seems to be it for our questions, Sister Terry. Thank you so much. I hope everyone feels that they got the information that they need. And if not, please do reach out to us. We're always happy to give you any additional information you may desire. So with that, I'll say good afternoon and have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.